Shalom all. I'm Rabbi Ariel from the KosherTorah School, found online at www.koshertorah.com. I want to read for you now another one of the essays that I send out weekly to our KosherTorah School supporting students. The topic of this essay is understanding consciousness and the ways that we expand it in accordance to the prophetic Kabbalah. It's the teachings of what we call the Sekhel Tenudah, oscillating consciousness, and hitbonenut, which is contemplative meditation. This is one of the techniques that has been used literally since biblical times, especially embraced by the sages of Israel, to become aware of greater wisdom and greater things. So please sit back, enjoy. I hope that this will be a benefit to you. And if you do like it, hey, please, subscribe to our channel, click the like button, and all those other kinds of, YouTube stuff we're supposed to be doing. And again, thank you all for your support. So here's the essay: Understanding Consciousness and the Ways to Expand It in Kabbalah. Like everything else in the universe, the human mind operates energetically. This is a known scientific fact. Consciousness, awareness, and perception are also energetically based. Each of these is nourished and strengthened by the proper input of psychic energy. Consciousness itself and its expansion or contraction are dependent upon a natural nourishment of psychic energy. Psychic energy is a real and tangible force. It is extracted from the air that we breathe and from the energetic results of our behavioral interactions. Expanding consciousness is not an academic or intellectual pursuit. Expanding consciousness has nothing to do with learning in the traditional academic sense. Expanding consciousness follows a natural course which refocuses attention away from the academic and the intellectual and onto the intuitive and the psychic. Essentially, in order to expand sensitivity and awareness in the higher dimensions that are regularly surrounding us, one must distance consciousness from its present association with the physical external world and seek to focus on internal experiences that are exclusively subjective and archetypal. One feels one's way to higher consciousness. Without the feeling component, consciousness is never expanded. The feeling component that guides human consciousness is the energetic factor that nourishes it and enables it to grow. We human beings presently reside in physical bodies whose almost sole attention is directed towards understanding and interacting with the observable external world. The world around us and outside of ourselves dominates our attention and our awareness. When we seek to define what is real, we limit our definitions to those things that are outside of ourselves. We are all aware of the fact that we have feelings about things that are separate and different from what we think about things. I might think in a certain way and yet feel in a very different way. This type of normal internal conflict is experienced by, most likely, everyone at one time or another with regards to one thing or another. Again, such internal differences are natural and normal. We think about a thing in one way, but we may feel about it in a way that conflicts with our thoughts. Now, what does society teach us to do about such internal conflicts? How we are taught to resolve them. Now, I believe that most of us already know the answer to this. We are always taught to be rational and logical. What we think should be clear. We should use our clear thinking to silence or to still our emotions within us, not paying attention to them and to thus ignore them, and if when necessary, to repress them. Logic dictates everything, we are told, and so our society elevates and praises cool and cold rational intellect at the expense of hot and heated emotions. We so elevate intellect that we are recreating it in computer technology. Today, AI, artificial intelligence, is beginning to manifest everywhere. We praise and laud our creation of the ultimate thinking machine. And yet, while we praise this new technological terror, we are oblivious to just how inhuman such a creation will ultimately be. We human beings are feeling creatures. AI can stimulate intelligence. It can think brilliantly. But the one thing it cannot do is to feel with a human heart. And because AI lacks the depths of human emotions and feelings, it will always be an alien presence among us. Our present society is based upon the ancient worship of rational thought. We praise the denial and the repression of human emotions, but this way is essentially imbalanced and ultimately inhuman. Maybe this insight can contribute to our understanding about what is wrong in our society today and yesterday, and most likely also tomorrow. The heart feels and understands. Without the heart, the brain and thus intellect is blind. And there is where our expansion of consciousness fails. The great misnomer underlying consciousness expansion, the pursuits and exercises, is that these endeavors are an expression of a calm and quiet mind. Yeah, there's some truth to this. We do seek to calm and quiet the mind, but we do this by exploring our emotions and ironing out all underlying emotional turmoil that resides repressed in the subconscious. In other words, we do not seek to repress emotions, seeking to discipline the mind. On the contrary, we arouse emotions and seek to merge them into the mind, uniting the two as one, thus giving one added inner strength, wisdom, and understanding. For the rationalist, who is the role model of our present society, this is the opposite of the truth. But from a natural, normal human perspective, the rationalist and all that he represents is the opposite of the truth. And thus we have the major impediment that prevents the growth of experiential consciousness, which is what leads one to access the interactions with higher dimensional planes and with those who dwell within them. Now, let me turn to the words and terminologies of the Kabbalah to best explain this. The Kabbalah refers to the physical universe and all external realities as the olam, or dimension, called Asiyah. Asiyah means making. It refers to physical things in their mechanical or technological structures. Asiyah is also a level of consciousness. Asiatic consciousness is the standard norm for most people today. Focus is on external things of this world and how to build them, fix them, and operate them. Asiatic consciousness looks at the world around us as being a big, great machine that needs maintenance, repairs when necessary, and improvements when possible. In the language of the Sephirot, which are the energetic emanations whose pattern describe the inner reality of the human world, Asiya is Malchut, the kingdom, the bottom, and thus the reservoir and anchor of the Sephirotic tree of life. Asiya Malchut is the body of things. But Asiya is only the lowest level of the Kabbalistic Olamot dimensions. The next dimension, one step higher than Asiya, is Yetzirah. Yetzirah means forming. Forming is different from making in that with forming, you are working with fundamental elements which do not yet have concrete form. One forms the fundamental elements into the more complex shapes that are then used to make Asiyah things. Yetzirah is one step before or above Asiyah. So, how does one go about forming things? What force guides one to know about forms? The pattern of the Sephirotic tree of life guides our path. Directly above the Sephirah Malchut is the Sephirah Yesod. Yesod begins the Olam dimension of Yetzirah. Yetzirah is dominated by the heart, Tiferet. Yesod gives to and receives from the heart. Yesod is passion. It is the energetic emotion that drives one to create. Yesod is libido. Yesod is creativity. It is an extension of heart and seeks to give rise to and to bring into manifestation that which the heart feels and desires. Needless to say, one's creative energy, however motivational as it may be, needs to be directed into expressions that are constructive, positive, and beneficial. And yet, who or what is to decide what is constructive, positive, and beneficial? Is this definition to be made by external considerations emanating from the outside Asiatic reality? Or is this definition and thus decision to be decided upon one's inner feelings, one's heart? Who decides how it's best for one to express oneself? This is the same question that we pondered on previously. The Asiatic mind, consciousness, tells one to define what is constructive, positive, and right based upon what is externally good. After all, such a decision is logical and thus practical. The Yitzhiratic heart, consciousness, however, feels differently, and while acknowledging the truth of a thing, still cries out to proclaim there are things other than logic that go beyond it, and that sometimes the way of the heart may be overall better than the mere practical way. When Yitzhiratic consciousness flows into the Asiatic thinking process, the results are the beautification of things beyond their simple and practical mechanical forms. For example, an artist paints a picture. The Asiatic mind thinks that it's nice and considers where to or where not to hang the picture. The Yitzhiratic mind looks at the picture and is transfixed by its beauty. The Yitzhiratic person wants to hang this beautiful picture in just the right place. It does not matter if that place is the most rational or reasonable place. Such considerations are irrelevant. The Yitzhiratic person wants this picture in this place and in this way simply because deep within himself, he feels that this is the right way. The Asiatic mind cannot understand the passionate desires of the Yitzhiratic mind and cannot submit to them or ignore them. Or I should say, actually, the Asiatic mind cannot understand the passionate desires of the Yitzhiratic mind and either submits to them or ignores them. Yitzhira is the dimensional plane of emotional passion. Its entry gate is Yesod, which is libido energy. In Asiyah, Yesod libido is almost always experienced and expressed as sexual energy. Now, this in and of itself is not a bad thing. Sexual energy is a good thing, indeed a very good thing. But as with all energies, sexual energy needs to be properly contained. Sexual energy that is not properly contained or insulated is just like any other energy not properly contained. What happens if electricity is not properly insulated? One who comes into direct contact with it can be electrocuted and die. What happens if nuclear radiation is not properly contained? One who's exposed to it can receive radiation poisoning and die. Sexual energy is no different. Sexual expression needs to be properly contained within specific types of relationships. Violation of these natural boundaries will lead to all types of problems, likes of which we see running rampant in our modern society. Yesod energy is not rational. It is not intellectual, nor is it intelligent. And yet, Yesod, sexual energy, motivates more human behaviors than anything of the rational kind. Indeed, the rise of the rational intellect grew specifically in an attempt to curtail and to discipline out of one's out-of-control sexual urges. Yesod energy is not properly sheathed in an Asiatic vessel is very dangerous, to say the least. Yet Yesod sexual energy is a necessary component of what makes a human being to be a human being. Does AI recognize this to be true? Any and all ascent beyond Asiatic consciousness will inevitably encounter Yesod libido. And this is why many who are interested in spirituality always seem to have an enhanced libido. This is both a blessing and a curse. It is a blessing when the creative energies can be focused inwardly and used to create passion for the ascent above. This usage of energy is what the Arizal Kabbalah calls ma'im nokbin, or man. There will be no ascent without this energy. However, on the flip side, ascent by passion alone is unguided, and therefore it is also misguided. Without proper instruction, Yesod libido energy almost always descends as opposed to ascends. This manifests in random, undirected, and misdirected sexual activity, the likes of which we have seen with aspiring but fallen students of spirituality. The passion, the raw desire within creative energy, is its vital component. It is like fuel in an engine. It is what motivates one in this ascent process. By way of contrast, the mind and thoughts that detach themselves from emotion strip themselves of their own internal power. And this is why the pursuit of any and all kinds of psychic enhancement must be predicated upon emotion and not upon the detachment from it. Once one's passion is secured within, one focuses it in a direction that best suits one's purposes. In the pursuit of expanded consciousness, in accordance to the Kabbalah path, one directs one's passion-charged desires towards bonding with God. This act of bonding with God in Kabbalah is called the Kavanah of Devikut. It is performed by activating the mental faculties of thought and imagination. These two, when motivated by Yesod libido, are combined to function alternatively and simultaneously. These faculties operate with a procedure which is rather natural and performed almost without thought by everybody. This procedure is called Sekhel Tenudah, oscillating consciousness. Sekhel Tenudah, oscillating consciousness, is how we vitalize the raw energy of Yesod libido and direct it into focused mental imagery. We focus the united mind and heart, thought and emotion, to fuel one's unconscious by the power of the Yesod libido, to unleash imaginative images into the conscious mind for it to consider, to contemplate. Such considerations, when properly digested and understood, are what bring the revelations of higher consciousness to mind. Within this process, one will experience feelings, sensations, thoughts, and emotions, the likes of which a trained adept and teacher will recognize as being the presence and influence of other universal, natural, and archetypal energy fields. These are the other sephirot of the tree of life experienced internally. Due to the very intricate and forever changing patterns of the intertwined sephirotic energies manifesting in the mind and heart of each individual, it's next to impossible to do justice to the experience by trying to describe it here in words. Each ascent through sephirotic influences is unique to the individual. As such, knowledge of the teachings of the academic Kabbalah and understanding the sephirot properly as internal psychological influences will enable the individual experiencing these things to make some sense of what it is that the individual is going through. Oscillating consciousness will introduce into one's thoughts fleeting images, indelible pictures, which will generate deep feelings and sensations. One then contemplates both what one is seeing and how what one sees makes one feel. These insights are what push the boundaries of consciousness, expanding them, giving to the individual deeper insights that were absent just moments ago before this process of contemplation began. These internal visionary experiences often overwhelm the conscious mind. one enters into a very clear altered state. But this state is nothing mysterious or mystical. We all know this state too well. We call it daydreaming. Daydreaming is when you get so caught up in a thought that we forget for the moment everything else that's going on around us. Think about a moment in life when one is bored with what one is presently doing, one's mind begins to wander, enters into a daydream state, a state of escape from the boredom of the moment. This state usually only lasts for a moment, because usually, but not always, the demand of one's boring situation insists upon the return of one's attention. So, in the practice of directed consciousness expansion, we arrange a situation in which one can, in essence, daydream without being disturbed. We motivate the moment with charged libido, yesod energy, and use it to fire up our imaginations. With the inner energies aroused, we focus them upon our desired goal. We do this through a number of different visualizations or sound-based mental concentrations that have specific applications to that which it is that one is at the moment trying to achieve. With all the pieces in place, we unleash the mind to oscillate consciousness and allow the form of focus, which is unconscious Yetzirah, to do its internal psychological, in quote, magic, and to bring to mind conscious Asiya, revelations from within the unconscious. And this is how properly aligned Yesod libido energy is tapped and used to bring forth functional, tangible, and real psychically induced manifestations of expanded consciousness. Now, let me delve deeper into the practice of Sekhel Tenudah and learn how to use it on a regular basis in order to tap into higher streams of consciousness at will. Sekhel Tenudah works best with what we call directed concentration. Directed concentration begins with a simple act of contemplation. Contemplation is one specific form of meditation. Contemplation is not the act of astral projection. In other words, this procedure is not designed to direct consciousness outside of one's physical body and into the halukah darabanan, astral body, for redirection in space and time. Contemplation is designed to receive wisdom, understanding, and insight into that which one is contemplating. This greater awareness and insight itself is expanded consciousness. Such an expansion dawns within one's consciousness as a result of the process of Sekhel Tenudah style contemplation. But it doesn't stop there. It spreads out from the point of origin, that which is originally contemplated, into many different directions. Consider this as an example. If one wishes to gaze upon a distant sight that one cannot see from one's present location, one can approach a mountain, ascend up its side to a certain height, and from there gain a better view of that which one wants to see from a distance. But from one's now new height, one will discover that not only can one see with greater clarity the distant sight that one sought, but one can now see also many other things that were previously unseeable from one's lower position. Contemplation grants us insight into that which we wish to understand with greater depth, and at the same time grants us deeper understanding into many other things as well. Expanding consciousness in one area is never limited to that one area alone. Now, I will outline the process of Sekhel Tenudah, oscillating consciousness. As its name implies, Sekhel Tenudah works by the shifting of awareness away from the concentrated analysis of that which is being contemplated and into a daydream state of complete non-attention to anything. Essentially, one allows one's mind and its concentration to simply go its own way, at its own speed, into a realm of thought beyond the control of the function of concentration itself. This is that state of daydream. But in this specific case, as one is contemplating something specific, the direction of one's thoughts as they shift away from the something of contemplation and into the nothing of daydreaming is equally specific. The act of contemplation in Sefirot terms is bina, the function of active intellect that seeks to understand a thing. The act of daydreaming in Sefirot terms is chokhmah, which is the function of thought concealed within the unconscious, and from this unknown and unseeable place taps into insights, wisdom, and understanding that is beyond the grasp of the conscious mind. Once this tap is made, the daydreaming state of Chokhmah on its own sends into the Bina mind the sought after new information. This then is then received in the Bina mind as a flash of insight and revelation. This is the proverbial eureka moment of discovery. Consciousness thus begins in Bina, and on its own swings into Chokhmah. Tap into what is there, and then swings back into Bina. One full oscillation is thus accomplished. One then begins to contemplate the new insights received and begins the process all over. This can be repeated numerous times, as many times as one is able to perform, and the more the better. This is Sekhel Tenudah. Sekhel Tenudah is charged by the passion of the individual who is seeking deeper insights. Deeper insights are themselves the beginnings of expanded consciousness. One begins with a thought, an idea to contemplate. It must be something that one truly is interested in, or otherwise there will just not be enough passion to motivate the mind forward into unconscious territory. The topic to be contemplated in the mind and heart of the individual must generate sufficient passion so as to fire up one's desires. This energy buildup is what the unconscious responds to by tapping into deeper resources in order to gather for and to send to the conscious mind sought after deeper insights. The unconscious mind does not respond to mere curiosities generated by the conscious mind. Such benign thoughts are weak and have no power behind them. And just as the conscious mind thinks about such thoughts for but a moment and then forgets them, so too does the unconscious pay no attention to them at all. Now, when, however, one becomes as if possessed with a thought or an idea, with a craving to embrace it and understand it with a passion similar to a sexual passion, one can then recognize the Yesod libido at work in proper ascent mode. Without this passion for deeper understanding, all thoughts will merely come and go without any staying power. Rightly does the Zohar say that the heart is the source of understanding. For without heartfelt passion, no thought will be transformed from mere curious speculation into deep and profound revelatory insight. The process of Sekhel Tenudah is thus energized with this passion called in Hebrew cheshek. So, in conclusion, I will briefly review. One is drawn to a specific thought or reason. One then withdraws from all outer activity so as to focus one's attention upon thinking about the important thought or matter in hand. As one contemplates the thought, one seeks to investigate it, to understand it from all sides and angles, both pro and con, including all aspects that may support or even nullify what it is that one contemplates or what one wishes to conclude. All aspects of possibility are considered, be they good or bad or right or wrong. After all, how does one decide whether or not if something is bad and wrong unless one has considered it to be so? Merely defining something in one way or another without proper understanding certainly does not expand awareness and consciousness. Eventually, One's deeper contemplations will cause one's attention to drift further and further away from external distractions until one reaches a point in thought similar to a daydream. In this state of mind, one is not really thinking about a thing, but rather one is experiencing it. This is the contact moment within one's unconscious. It is in this daydream state wherein one receives insights and deeper revelation. This is that experienced eureka moment, which then, as if awakens one from the daydream state, now charged with new excitement coming from the now deeper insight that one has received. One then contemplates this deeper insight more and more until one re-enters the daydream state, wherein which one again receives further insight and yet again another eureka moment. This process goes back and forth for however many times that it does. Each swing of the mental pendulum brings with it greater revelations and deeper insights. This is that swinging, oscillation, that moment of thought that we call Sekhel Tenudah. Now, in terms of meditation, this process is called hitbonenut, contemplative meditation. This is not the path of the prophet that is used to draw down prophecy, but this is the path of the sage who draws down Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration. And as the Gemara, Baba Batra Daf Yud Bet Amud Aleph states, a sage is preferable to a prophet. And why is a sage preferable to a prophet? Because a prophet goes into a trance and waits for the spirit of revelation to come to him. He's thus in a passive state, whereas a sage practicing Sekhel Tenudah goes into his own trance-like stage. The sage does not wait for revelation. His mind is not in the passive mode. The mind of the sage is active. It moves to take revelations and insights from within the unconscious and not just wait for these things to come to him. The sage can, and thus does, produce wisdom and insights relatively on demand. This is usually something that no prophet can do, unless he too is a sage using Sekhel Tenudah method to receive Ruach HaKodesh. Now, this practice, when perfected, sharpens the mind, expands consciousness, and grants one greater insights, not only into the contemplated concept or idea, but also into everything else in life. This is the Kabbalah of hitbonenut, brought to us by Sekhel Tenudah. And this is still only one of the many ways to expand consciousness, according to the Kabbalah. And that concludes the essay. Thank you if you stayed with me all this time here. And again, if you like it, hey, please give us a thumbs up there and subscribe to our channel. Help support us so we can get this message and others like it out to everybody. Because really, if we do not learn to see with our own eyes and experience for ourselves, then how are we ever going to come to the common denominator unity that we really need to have to move forward during these difficult times? Contemplate that. Thank you all for listening. Ariel Tzadok here from KosherTorah School. I'll see you all later. God bless. Thanks again. Shalom.